Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'll be doing the chapter 2 audiobook of Legend by Mary Lou. So let's get right into it. June. 1,347 hours. Drake University, Baltala Sector. 72 degrees indoors. I'm sitting in my dean secretary's office. Again, on the other side of the frosted glass door, I see a bunch of my classmates. Seniors, all at least 4 years older than me, hanging around in an attempt to hear what's going on. Several of them saw me being yanked out of our afternoon drill class. Today's lesson, how to load and unload the XM621 rifle by a menacing pair of guards, and whenever that happens, the news spreads all over campus. The Republic's favorite little prodigy is in trouble again. The office is quiet, except for a faint hum coming from the dean secretary's computer. I've memorized every detail of this room. Hand-cut marble floors imported from Dakota, 324 plastic square ceiling tiles, 20 feet of gray drapes hanging on either side of the glorious elector's portrait of the office's back wall, a 30-inch screen on the side wall with the sound muted, and a headline that reads, Traitorous Patriots Group Bombs Local Military Station, Kills 5, followed by Republic Defeats Colonies in Battle for Hillsborough. Arisna Wooltaker, the dean secretary herself, is seated behind her desk, tapping on his glass, no doubt typing up my report. This will be my 8th report this quarter. I'm willing to bet I'm the only Drake student who's ever managed to get 8 reports in 1 quarter without being expelled. Injured your hand yesterday, Miss Wooltaker? I say after a while. She stops typing to glare at me. What makes you think that, Miss Paris? The pauses on your keystrokes are off. You're favoring your left hand. Miss Wooltaker sighs and leans back in her chair. Yes, June. I twisted my wrist yesterday in the game of kickball. Sorry to hear. You should try to swing more from your arm than from your wrist. I'd meant this simply to be a statement of fact, but it sounded sort of taunting and doesn't seem to have made her any happier. Let's get something straight, Miss Paris, she says. You may think you're very smart. You may think your perfect grades earn you some sort of special treatment. You may even think that you have fans at the school. What with all this nonsense? She gestures at the students scattered outside the door. But I've grown extremely tired of our get-togethers in my office. And believe me, when you graduate and get assigned to whatever post this country chooses you for, your antics won't impress your superiors there. Do you understand me? I nod, because that's what she wants me to do. But she's wrong. I don't just think I'm smart. I'm the only person in the entire republic with a perfect 1,500 score on her trial. I was assigned here to the country's top university at 4 years ahead of my schedule. Then I skipped my sophomore year. I've earned perfect grades at Drake for 3 years. I am smart. I have what the Republic considers good genes. And better genes make for better soldiers, make for better chances of victory against the colonies, the professors always say. And if I feel like my afternoon drills aren't teaching me enough about how to climb walls while carrying weapons, then, well, it isn't my fault I had to scale the side of a 19-story building with the XM621 gun strapped to my back. It was self-improvement for the sake of my country. Rumor has it that day, one scaled 5 stories in less than 8 seconds. If the Republic's most wanted criminal can pull that off, then how are we ever going to catch him if we're not just as fast? And if we can't even catch him, how are we going to win the war? Miss Wooltaker's desk beeps 3 times. She holds down a button. Yes? Captain Matthias I. Paris is outside the gate, a voice replies. He's here for his sister. Good. Send him in. She releases the button and points a finger at me. I hope that your brother of yours starts doing a better job of minding you. Because if you end up in my office one more time this quarter, Matthias is doing a better job than our dead parents, I reply, maybe more sharply than I intended. We fall into an uncomfortable silence. Finally, after what seems like an eternity, I hear a commotion outside in the hall. The students pressed against the doors. Glass abruptly disperse, and their shadows move aside to make room for a tall silhouette. my brother. As Matthias opens the door and steps inside, I can see some girls out in the hall stifling smiles behind their hands. But Matthias fixes his full attention on me. We had the same eyes, black with a gold tint, the same long lashes, and dark hair. The long lashes worked particularly well for Matthias. Even though the door closed behind him, I can still hear the whispers and giggles from outside. It looks like he came from his patrol duty straight to my campus. He's out in his full uniform, black officer coat with double rows of gold buttons, gloves, neoprene, spectra lining, captain ring embroidery, shining epaulettes on his shoulders, formal military hat, black trousers, and polished boots. My eyes meet his. He's furious. Miss Wooltaker gives Matthias a brilliant smile. "Ah, Captain," she exclaims. "It's a pleasure to see you." Matthias taps the edge of his hat in a polite salute. "It's unfortunate it's under these circumstances again," he replies. "My apologies." "Not a problem, Captain." The Dean's secretary waves her hand dismissively. "What a brown's noser," especially after what she just said about Matthias. "It's hardly your fault. Your sister was caught scaling a high rise during her lunch hour today. She wandered 2 blocks off campus to do so. As you know, students are to use only the climbing walls on campus for physical training, and leaving the campus in the middle of the day is forbidden." "Yes, I'm aware of that," Matthias interrupts, looking at me from out of the corner of his eye. "I saw the helicopters over Drake at noon, and had a suspicion June might have been involved. There had been 3 helicopters. They couldn't get me off the side of the building by scaling it themselves, so they pulled me off with a net." "Thank you for your help," Matthias says to the Dean's secretary. He snaps his fingers at me, my cue to get up. When June returns to the campus, she'll be on her best behavior. I ignore Miss Wooltaker's false smile as I follow my brother out of the office and into the hall. Immediately, students hurry over. "June," a boy named Dorian says as he tags alongside us. He'd asked me, unsuccessfully, to the annual Drake Ball 2 years in a row. "Is it true? How high up did you go?" Matthias cuts him off with a stern look. "June's heading home." Then he puts a hand firmly on my shoulder and guides me away from my classmates. I glance behind me and manage to smile for them. 14 floors, I call back. That gets them buzzing again. Somehow, this has become the closest relationship I have with the other Drake students. I'm respected, discussed, gossiped about, not really talked to. Such is the life of a 15-year-old senior in a university meant for 16 and up. Matthias doesn't say another word as we make our way down the corridors, past the manicured lawns of the central quad and the glorious elector's statue, and finally through one of the indoor gyms. We pass by the afternoon drills I'm supposed to be participating in. I watch my classmates run along a giant track surrounded by a 360 screen simulating some desolate war front row. They're holding their rifles out in front of them, attempting to load and unload as fast as they can while running. At most other universities, there wouldn't be so many student soldiers, but at Drake, almost all of us are well on our way to career assignments in the Republic's military. A few others are tapped for politics and Congress, and some are chosen to stay behind and teach. But Drake is the Republic's best university, and seeing as how the best are always assigned to the military, our drill room is packed with students. By the time we reach one of our Drake's outer streets, and I climb into the backseat of our waiting military jeep, Matthias can barely contain his anger. "Suspended for a week? Do you want to explain this to me?" he demands. I get back from a morning of dealing with the Patriot rebels, and what do I hear about? Helicopters 2 blocks from Drake? A girl scaling a skyscraper? I exchange a friendly look with Thomas, the soldier in the driver's seat. "Sorry," I mutter. Matthias turns around from his place in the passenger seat and narrows his eyes at me. "What the hell were you thinking? Did you know you'd wandered right off campus?" "Yes, of course, you're 15. You went 14 floors up." He takes a deep breath, closes his eyes, and steadies himself. "For once, I'd appreciate it if you would let me do my daily tours of duty without worrying myself sick over what you're up to." I try to meet Thomas's eyes again in the rear view mirror. but he keeps his gaze on the road. Of course, I shouldn't expect any help from him. He looks as tidy as ever, with his perfectly sleeked hair and perfectly ironed uniform, not a strand or thread out of place. Thomas might be several years younger than Matthias and a subordinate on his patrol, but he's more disciplined than anyone I know. Sometimes I wish I had that much discipline. He probably disapproves of my stunts even more than Matthias does. We leave downtown Los Angeles behind and travel up the winding highway in silence. The scenery changes from inner Baltala sectors, 100-floor skyscrapers, to densely packed barrack towers and civilian complexes, each one only 20 or 30 stories high, with red guiding lights blinking on their rooftops. Most with all their paint stripped off after this year's rash of storms. Metal support beams crisscross their walls. I hope they get to upgrade those supports soon. The war's been intense lately, and with several decades of infrastructure funding diverted to supplying the war front, I don't know if these buildings would hold up well in another earthquake. After a few minutes, Matthias continues in a calmer voice. You really scared me today, he says. I was afraid they'd mistake you for Day and shoot at you. I know he didn't mean this as a compliment, but I can't help but smile. I lean forward to rest my arms on top of his seat. Hey, I say, tugging his ear the way I did when I was a kid. Sorry I made you worry. He lets out a scornful chuckle, but I can tell his anger is already fading. Yeah, that's what you say every time, Junebug. Is Drake not keeping your mind busy enough? If not, then I don't know what will. You know, if you'd take me along on some of your missions, I'd probably learn a lot more and stay out of trouble. Nice try, but you're not going anywhere until you graduate and get assigned to your own patrol. I bite my tongue. Matthias did pick me once, for a mission last year, when all third-year Drake students had to shadow an assigned military branch. His commanders sent him to kill a runaway prisoner of war from the colonies, so Matthias brought me along with them, and together we chased the POW deeper and deeper into our territory, away from dividing fences and the strip of land running from Dakota to West Texas that separates the Republic and the colonies away from the war front where airships dot the sky. I tracked him into an alley in Yellowstone City, Montana, and Matthias shot him. During the chase, I broke 3 ribs and had a knife buried in my leg. Now Matthias refuses to take me anywhere. When Matthias finally speaks again, he sounds grudgingly curious. So tell me, he whispers, how fast did you climb those 14 stories? Thomas gives him a disapproving sound in his throat, but I break into a smile. Storms pass. Matthias loves me again. 6 minutes, I whispered back to my brother, and 44 seconds. How do you like that? That must have been some sort of record. Not that, you know. You're supposed to do it. Thomas stops the Jeep right behind the lines at the red light and gives Matthias an exasperated look. Come on, Captain, he says. Miss Paris won't learn a thing if you keep praising her for breaking the rules. Cheer up, Thomas. Matthias reaches over and claps him on the back. Surely breaking a rule once in a while is tolerable, especially if you're doing it to beef up your skills for the Republic's sake. Victory against the colonies, right? The light blinks green. Thomas turns his eyes back to the road. He seems to count to 3 in his head before letting the Jeep go forward. Right, he mutters. You should still be careful what you're encouraging Miss Paris to do, especially with your parents gone. Matthias's mouth tightens into a line, and a familiar, strained look appears in his eyes. No matter how sharp my intuition is, no matter how well I do at Drake or how perfectly I score in defense and target practice and hand-to-hand combat, Matthias's eye always holds that fear. He's afraid something might happen to me one day, like the car crash that took our parents. That fear never leaves his face, and Thomas knows it. I didn't know our parents long enough to miss them in the same way Matthias does. Whenever I cry over losing them, I cry because I don't have any memories of them, just hazy recollections of long, adult legs shuffling around our apartments and hands lifting me from my high chair. That's it. Every other memory from my childhood, looking out into the auditorium as I receive an award or having soup made for me when I'm sick or being scolded or tucked into bed, those are with Matthias. As we drive past the half of Botala sector and through a few poor blocks, can these street beggars stay a little farther from our Jeep? Finally, we reach the gleaming terraced high rises of Ruby, And we're home. Matthias gets up first. As I follow, Thomas gives me a small smile. See you later, Miss I. Paris, he says, tipping his hat. I stopped trying to convince him to call me June. He'll never change. Still, it's not so bad being called something proper. Maybe when I'm older and Matthias doesn't fade at the idea of me dating. Bye, Thomas. Thanks for the ride. I smile back at him before stepping out of the Jeep. Matthias waits until the door slams shut before turning to me and lowering his voice. I'll be home late tonight, he says. There's that tension in his eyes again. Don't go out alone. News from the war fronts is they're cutting power to residents tonight to save energy for the airfield bases. So stay put, okay? The streets will be darker than usual. My heart sinks. I wish the Republic would hurry up and win this war already, so that for once we might actually get a whole month of nonstop electricity. Where are you going? Can I come with you? I'm overseeing the lab at Los Angeles Central. They're delivering vials of some mutated virus there. It shouldn't take all night, and I already told you, no missions. Matthias hesitates. I'll be home as early as I can. We have a lot to talk about. He puts his hand on my shoulders, ignores my puzzled look, and gives me a quick kiss on my forehead. Love you, Junebug, he says, his trademark goodbye. He turns to climb back into the Jeep. I'm not going to wait up for you, I call after him. But by now, he's already inside, and the Jeep's pulling away with him. Inside of it. Be careful, I muttered. But it's pointless to say now. Matthias is too far away to hear me. Well, that's it for chapter 2. Next time you come back to the channel, I'll have the audiobook for chapter 3. So that's it for now. Stay tuned.